Le Nissan Kick-Play 2025 a beaucoup de plus. Apple CarPlay intégré pour jouer vos tunes préférées, des fonctions avancées de sécurité, un rendement énergétique remarquable, puis même la petite odeur de char neuf qu'on aime tant. Tout ça en plus pour moins. Le Nissan Kick Play 2025 est le véhicule neuf le plus abordable au Québec. Achetez-le à partir de seulement 22 774 $, incluant un rabais à l'achat comptant de 2 600 $. Profitez de cette offre avantageuse chez votre concessionnaire dès maintenant. Jusqu'au 2 mars, des conditions s'appliquent. Détails chez Nissan.
Welcome back to the Elias Macko Show. Last week, Hershey's chocolate came under fire after they launched their Canadian campaign for International Women's Day. The campaign includes a trans woman, and immediately there was reaction, where else, on social media, and there were calls to boycott Hershey's chocolate. That hashtag boycott Hershey's. Maybe you saw that trending. It's yet another example of a brand generating strong but mixed reaction to a promotional campaign. Let's find out more about this, and let's talk about International Women's Day, which is coming up upon us in a couple of days. Carolyn Codsi is with us, the founder and chief equity officer of Women in Governance. Carolyn, welcome back to the show.
Good morning, Elias.
So first things first, before we get into this Hershey's Canada controversy, that kind of thing, has International Women's Day always been the center of controversy? Like, has it always been a political issue in some respect? Is it like maybe this year's controversy is different, but every year is there something? Is it a political controversy type of day in your opinion?
Look, every year there are people who are going to find reasons to criticize March 8th, International Women's Day. I often get comments on my post that day from men who say, well, what about a day for men, International Men's Day? This is unfair that you have a day. It's quite amazing because, quite honestly, I think the other 364 days in the year are pretty much Men's Day. I think this year is a little bit different in the sense that we sort of have a disservice from the woke community that may be going a little bit far in certain topics. And I'm not talking specifically on the Hershey's because that's, to me, not so, it's not such an, to me, I don't see it as an issue that they are recognizing a trans woman, Faye Johnston. Where I do see, and frankly, it's very much the far right in the U.S. that's reacting this way, right? Mm-hmm. But where I do see an issue and where I do understand that there are women and men who are a little bit tired of seeing it go so far with the trans community, I'll give you two examples that are, to me, quite clear and that I don't agree with. Is first of all, when the Penn swimmer Leah Thomas became the first transgender athlete in any sport to win an NCAA division championship. Even Caitlyn Jenner, we all remember, used to be Bruce Jenner, won the men's decathlon in 1976 right here in Montreal at the Summer Olympics. Caitlyn Jenner came out and said, I don't recognize Leah Thomas as the winner because it's a trans person. So obviously the level of hormones is different. So it's not transphobic. It's not anti-trans. These are Caitlyn Jenner's words. It's common sense to say that it's the runner-up, the person who is right behind Thomas, Emma Weyant, who should be the winner because she's an actual woman. So these things become dangerous where people get frustrated. You have a bunch of women who work, their butts off for years to be in that competition, and then you have a transgender woman who comes and takes the prize. Another example I'll share with you is Brian Nguyen, who's a 19-year-old student who won a competition, and it was a pageant, a beauty pageant.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you've seen the pictures of Brian Nguyen, very different from all these young, beautiful women who are running up. I don't like beauty pageants, to be honest with you. But if we're going to look at these different examples, he obviously doesn't correspond to the beauty pageant, but she's a trans woman. So Brian, or identifying as a woman, won. So that again,
Carolyn,
can be seen as very unfair.
And
yes.
can I just ask something here? Because listen, in your role, right, founder and chief equity officer at Women in Governance, you've been someone that's been fighting, right, for equality and equity in a whole bunch of places, right? And I got to be honest, like you're talking about this today, and I'm surprised that you're talking so open and honestly about these things, because I think sometimes it's hard, it's difficult to talk about these things. And by the way, I want to bring, you brought up, the United States here, right? Sometimes we bring up United States controversy and the hate that actually does happen in the United States and try and make it a Canadian problem. And I think especially here in Quebec, we don't have that. But I mean, do you find it difficult to talk about these things? And at Women in Governance, when it comes to your meetings, do you find it difficult to talk about things? Because clearly you've spent a life caring about equity and equality.
Well, and that's where I'm coming from. I'm coming from an equity perspective where I say, how fair is it for a woman who has the hormones of a woman to be competing with someone who's identifying as a woman, who may have undergone or not a sex change operation, but still has a different level of hormones? So how is that equity that person is going to beat me? I think it's unfair. So yes, it's difficult to have these conversations because, with this woke spirit, you can be canceled, right? Mm-hmm. But to me, I cannot just remain silent, and I cannot just say, well, I'm going to go with the wave and the trend and say this is the right thing to do because I want to appeal to younger generations. Of course I want to appeal to younger generations, but I want to remain authentic to who I am. I have fought all my life for equality, equity, fairness, and I don't think this is fair. So yes, I recognize the rights of trans women the same way that I recognize the rights of cis women. So for me, the Hershey's controversy, it's really not that important. If they want to feature a trans woman, I think it's actually really cool that they did that. Mm-hmm. I have nothing against that. All I'm saying is we just need to be cautious as to how far we go, so not to take away rights from 51% of the population in contests or in Olympics, etc. And this is why I'm fighting Caitlyn Jenner, who is a trans woman herself, who is an athlete herself, who says this is crazy. It's common sense to say you cannot compete against women because you're just not shaped equally. Has that,
Carol? We're with Carolyn Codsi from Women in Governance. So, Carolyn, I know you got an event coming up for International Women's Day, right?
Absolutely.
Just before we get to your event here, I just want to know: has this caused strife internally at Women in Governance? Do you have debates over this kind of thing?
Well, listen, most of the team members are in agreement. I can't speak for everyone. There's 17 employees. Everybody has their own thoughts. There's also another organization that I co-founded with Nicole Piggott called Synclusive, SYNCLUSIV. And that organization, Synclusive, actually focuses on all underrepresented groups, not only the women. Mm-hmm. And I would say that within that group, these conversations are more, not heated because everyone is pretty much on the same wave. We have to protect the rights of trans women, but not when they're going to infringe the rights of cis women. You want to be fair, you got to be fair all the way.
Mm-hmm. I imagine, because it's such a touchy subject and you want to be fair. You also want to balance a whole bunch of other things when it comes to equality and equity in these things. I imagine that this week you've got a busy plate on your schedule here. Why don't you just, while we wrap up this interview here, let's talk about what you're doing this week for International Women's Day.
Absolutely. So we are having a cocktail at the Ritz-Carlton in Montreal on March 8th, 5:30 to 7:30. All details are on our website, womeningovernance.org. And I'd like to share with our listeners a 20% rebate code, MERCI20, MERCI 20, all caps in one word. If you want to get your ticket, 20% rebate for anybody who listens to Elias Makos on TJD. And please join us. There's going to be a few hundred people, and we are going to be unveiling this year's cohort of organizations that have received our parity certification. As you know, we've been certifying organizations since 2017. More than 700,000 employees in Canada and the U.S. work for an organization that has been certified by Women in Governance. this year, 83 organizations, and I'm not going to unveil who's platinum and what the other level. We're from bronze to platinum. There's 10 platinum this year. They will be unveiled on March 8th. But we have amazing organizations throughout, some large Canadian companies, some multinationals, the Pfizer's and FedEx and Couche-Tard and Desjardins and the Toronto Stock Exchange, Rolls-Royce. Anyway, there's 83 unbelievable companies that are working concretely to close the gender gap in the workplace. We are not just about hashtags and pledges. We're actually not about that at all. We're about concretely modifying culture, policies, implementing concrete initiatives that are going to allow women to progress from entry level all the way to the top of the organization with a fair pay, with equal rights, and being able to actually get to the top of the house at an equal pace as their male colleagues.
Carolyn, I encourage everyone to head over to Women in Governance, the website, womeningovernance.org, if they want more details there. And Carolyn, thanks so much for coming on the program this morning.
Thank you, Elias.
That's Carolyn Codsi, founder, Chief Equity Officer at Women in Governance.